A celebrity gets paid $1 million. That sentence is in a press release right now, probably several, and it means almost nothing without three more questions. Which million, a million of what, and who's actually holding it when the wire clears? Because depending on how you count, the same deal is a $1.4 million budget line, a $1 million gross fee, or a $650,000 that survives the people who touched it on the way down. Same headline, three different numbers. This video is about the distance between them. If you saw our last video, you know where this starts. A Super Bowl spot, 30 seconds, $7 million in airtime. And that was before a single actor smiled at a camera, before a director charged a day rate, before a single second of footage was recorded. The $7 million was just the room. The furniture was extra. That video was about media spend, the cost of being seen. Today, we want to know what goes on inside the deal before the ad ever runs. Specifically, the moment a brand decides a famous person is the message. What does that cost? What does the talent actually take home? And what is the brand really buying when they write that check? One deal, three stacks of numbers. Start at $1 million and watch what happens to it. Here's the first confusion. When a trade publication reports that a celebrity signed a seven-figure endorsement deal, they're not telling you which seven-figure number they mean. There are at least three in the room. The first is the brand's all-in budget. This is the number that lives in a marketing spreadsheet. It covers the talent fee, yes. It also covers production, the director, the crew, the location, the edit. It covers usage fees, pays separately from the talent guarantee. It covers legal, contracting, and in some cases, the cost of clearing existing conflicts or paying out a prior exclusive relationship the talent needs to exit. The all-in number is the largest one. It is often the number that leaks to the press because it's the most impressive. The second number is the talent's gross guaranteed fee. This is what the contract specifies will be wired to the talent's loan-out company or directly to representation. It is smaller than the all-in. How much smaller depends on the deal structure, the production model, and whether usage is bundled into the talent fee or billed separately. The third number is the money that survives. After representation takes their percentages, after the attorney closes the deal, after the business manager processes it, after all taxes are withheld on whatever structure applies, the surviving number is the one the talent actually compounds. It is the smallest of the three. The press release prints the first one, sometimes the second, almost never the third. And that gap is what this video is about. Take $1 million gross. Talent fee guaranteed, written into the contract. Call it clean. It is not clean for long. The first person in line is the agent. SAG-AFTRA franchise agents are capped at 10% of gross. That is not a negotiating position, it is a union ceiling. $100,000 gone. Next is the manager. Managers are not agents. They are not union regulated on commission rate. The range is 10 to 15%, and some managers in high leverage relationships work at 20. If you have heard that managers are always at 20%, that's not accurate. It depends on the deal, the relationship, and frankly, what the manager can negotiate. Call it 12.5% as a rough midpoint. That's another $125,000. The attorney. Some entertainment attorneys work hourly, some work on a percentage of the deal that they close. If they are on a percentage, 5% is a reasonable figure, $50,000. The business manager. The person handling the financial infrastructure, the entity structure, the tax planning, typically runs 3 to 5% of gross income processed. Call it $40,000. Add those up. You're at roughly $315,000 in representation costs before a single tax authority enters the room. That puts gross survivable income somewhere in the $650,000 to $720,000 range, depending on where those percentages actually land in this specific talent's specific deal. And that is before the federal tax income on the remainder. A loan-out structure can help with timing and entity-level planning, but it does not make the tax liability disappear. It defers and manages it. So the $1 million headline, at the moment it hits the talent's actual picture, is a considerably different number. Still significant, still worth doing, in most cases, but not $1 million. Not even close. And here's where the money hides in ways that do not show up in the deduction math at all. The talent fee is not a fee for being famous. It is a fee for a specific bundle of rights. And most coverage never mentions what actually is included in that bundle. Start with usage. A contract does not buy unlimited use of a performance. It buys a defined window in defined territories across defined platforms. 6 months of domestic broadcast is a different price than 2 years of global digital. The expansion of each variable, time, geography, platform costs more. Brands negotiate these windows carefully because holding unused rights costs nothing. Talent negotiates them carefully because every extension is leverage. Then think about what happens when the campaign ends. The ads don't disappear. It lives in the brand's archive. A regional team wants to run it again in a new market. It ends up in a case study presentation at an agency 3 years later. Each of those scenarios require either a new rights negotiation or a clause that was written into the original contract years earlier. Paid media rights work the same way. The right to take social content and put paid amplification behind it is not automatically included in a social content fee. Brands sometimes learn this after the fact. It is its own line item. Category exclusivity is a cost center most people never think about. If talent agrees not to work with any competitor for the contract term, the restriction on future earnings has a price. The narrower the category, the cheaper. The broader, all alcohol, all athletic wear, all financial services, the more expensive. The brand is paying for what the celebrity won't do as much as what they will. The DJ Khaled case made all of this visible in a way most deals never are. His SEC settlement from the Centra Tech ICO promotion included a public filing that detailed the specific structure of the deal, the fee, the rights granted, the social obligations, not because it was typical, because the enforcement action forced disclosure. What it showed is that what looks like a simple social post sits on top of a precise rights architecture. Name, image, and likeness are three separate things in a contract. Voice is a fourth. Approval rights over how all of them are used can be a fifth. The talent fee is the access price. The rights architecture is the usage price, and they're often bundled in ways that make it very hard to see where one begins and the other ends. This is why the rights stack can end up costing as much as the rep stack, sometimes more, and it's almost entirely visible in the headline number. Everything so far has assumed the deal is a fee. A check clears, rights transfer. The relationship has a defined end date. That is one model. It is not the only model, and increasingly it is not the most interesting one. The alternative is equity. Not a replacement for a fee, usually as a complement to one, or a reframe of the whole relationship. Think of Ryan Reynolds and Aviation Gin. Diageo acquired Aviation Gin in a deal valued at up to $610 million. Reynolds did not just endorse the brand. He was an owner with a retained interest through the acquisition. The marketing he did, and he was deeply involved in the creative, not just the face, was building something he had stake in. The fee model would have paid him once. The ownership model paid him on exit. George Clooney and Casamigos. Clooney co-founded the tequila brand with partners. Diageo acquired it in a deal worth up to $1 billion. Again, not an endorsement. An ownership stake that appreciated the brand and was monetized at scale. Michael Jordan and Nike. The original Nike offer was $500,000 per year. Jordan reportedly preferred Adidas. Nike built in royalty participation, a percentage of revenue from the Air Jordan line. That line has generated over $1 billion annually in recent years. The fee would have paid him $500,000 once a year. The royalty structure built compounding returns on every pair sold for decades. The pattern is consistent. The fee model is a transaction, ownership is a position. Fees pay once, on the terms that were negotiated at the moment of signing. When the brand's future value is unknown, ownership pays on the upside if the brand performs. The risk is real. Equity in a brand that fails is worth nothing, but the ceiling is categorically different. The negotiation question is not only what the fee is, it is whether the fee is the right instrument at all. Back to the $1 million, the press release number, the headline. Here's what it actually is. A brand budget line that may include promotion and usage costs the talent never sees. A gross fee that enters the talent orbit and immediately begins contracting under representation, legal, and management costs. And a surviving number that is the only figure that actually matters to the person cashing the check. 3 numbers, 1 headline. The people structuring these deals know which number is which. They negotiate each one separately. The press release collapses them into one because simplicity sells. The business of persuasion runs on clarity of message, even when the message is built on layers of complexity. It turns out it is equally true in how advertising deals are described. Subscribe if this is how you want to think about marketing. Not the creative, not the culture, not the mechanics. Next video. What happens when talent does something that the brand did not sign up for? Morality clauses. How are they written? When do they trigger? And what does it cost for both sides when they actually do? The conversation is messier than it looks.